Hi, I'm Nick Adams. I'm the producing director of the Exponential Festival, and we're sitting down with two members of the thingNY presentation, Natural Studies. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alejandro, acierto. I'm a performer-composer for Mouthful and a co-organizer of the exhibition that'll live alongside the production, To Tongue Tie.
I'm Joseph, or Joe White, and I am the composer of You Against Nature, which is the other piece on the bill for Natural Studies. And I'm also eagerly anticipating getting to see Mouthful as an audience member. So.
Yeah,
cool. I'm so excited to be speaking with you. I'd like to get to share with our audience just a little bit about what the program will entail. So y'all are presenting an original work, Mouthful, and also an opera that was written for your company, You Against Nature. And you're presenting this multimedia gallery show at Brick Ox. Your works throughout the years have included, an album along with a comic book, or an album along with a campaign button. So I want to know a little bit about your histories as multi-hyphenate artists, and how the layering of these identities inform your more distinct practices.
Yeah, I think a lot of what since the inception of thingNY, we've always been interested in a lot of different things. We all have different backgrounds, and it kind of just made sense to embrace who we were as creative people, to really make work that makes the most sense for all of us that are in the room, right? And so when we had the opportunity to show works as an exhibition alongside of the production, it kind of just made sense. I took lead of that in part because I'm a practicing visual artist, multimedia artist as well, alongside as a performer, and having curated other exhibitions, worked on other projects with other artists, it just made sense for me to sort of do this thing, because I wasn't also in YAM. So I'm not in You Against Nature, but I'm here for 2 weeks, so it's like, well, let's try this out, let's see what happens. And it kind of allowed us to sort of embrace that multi-hyphenate sort of identity that we all sort of carry and share.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that the project incorporates everyone's skill sets in their dimensionality.
Yeah, and it was also very organic, and it wasn't necessarily a contrived thing. We had the opportunity, this could be great, but it could also have been something else, and it sort of just made sense, given what the constraints were elsewhere, that this is what could happen. So, cool.
Joseph, I know you have made works for individual members of this company. I was looking at your website. You've worked with Paul and Gelsey before, is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you identify with this idea of this kind of multidisciplinary approach to creating work for a vocal ensemble, a musicians ensemble?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in working with thingNY, with so many talents in a relatively small a number of people, it's possible to create a maximalist work that works on a lot of levels, that has visual elements, that has maybe multiple instruments happening, that has live acoustic instruments and electronics, and within the group of thingNY, they can handle it all, and they can really produce something that's pretty unique. So from a composer's perspective, thingNY is a wonderful instrument to get to try and play, just because there's almost nothing you can imagine that they couldn't pull off, and they also have a spirit of wanting to try. I feel like thingNY errs on the side of yes, in a way that's very exciting to work with. So
that has been my experience when reaching out to y'all. That has been my experience. I want to think about the subject matter of these works. And I'll put this question to you, Joseph, first, and Alejandro, if you want to jump in. The piece that you've written, Joseph, You Against Nature, is based on this 19th century novel, Against Nature.
Yeah.
And so this work is hearkening back to 19th century France. And with, Mouthful, we're thinking about, our lineages through food, through digestion, identity through those two things. So what excites you about pairing these two works together on an evening? And maybe Alejandro, how's that gonna reflect in the gallery show too?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I'm very excited to see Mouthful, because it's been this mysterious thing of seeing the props,
Sure.
all the toilets and all the electronics. So there are some things I still have to learn about what Mouthful is doing, but I understand a number of things about it. I think my sense is that both works are about exploring self-knowledge in various ways, and they also, You Against Nature specifically is about isolation and what you do in isolation. And we started it before the pandemic, and then it took on a peculiar resonance after lockdown. So I think that, yeah, I look forward to discovering all the connections between the two works, but it seems like that theme of self-discovery and self-knowledge is something that maybe both pieces are approaching from different angles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, really thinking about lineage and thinking about the way that food becomes part of heritage and culture, right, and how we identify within those strains, right, becomes also this other layer of how we understand ourselves, how we understand where we came from, and all those things that are pertinent to You Against Nature. Yeah.
Cool. And what connection do you expect we'll see in the gallery?
Yeah, and then the gallery is really just kind of another. I don't want to say it's another version of Mouthful, but it draws a lot from the themes of Mouthful, and it's a thinking alongside of, right? So all of the artists that are in that show, some of whom are actually, so Gelsey Bell and Eric have a video work that they collaborated on. Erin Rogers and Pinto have a video work they collaborated on, right? So they have work in the show, but then also there's other work that's being supported. Cameron and so there's other video work. Benedicto Figueroa, Rahela Filsufi, and Jana Harper, who have these other visual works that are also thinking alongside of like lineage, family. The bodega comes into play a lot. So there's like food places, the space of food, not necessarily the interior, but other kinds of interiors sort of show up. So these are all this is the sort of landscape that exists in the exhibition that lives alongside of Mouthful as a performance.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is an unplanned question for our audience members out there, but you will play for 3 evenings as part of Natural Studies at the Brick.
Yes.
But the gallery show will run
Through the end of the month.
through the end of August.
Yeah, so it'll be open till August 31st, and then we promptly close because we have to turn the space over to whoever's next. We don't know who that is yet.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of space,
Yeah.
right? Our last question. The members of thingNY have been a part of this, contemporary New York performance community for, 2 decades, a
Yeah.
decade plus.
Yeah.
And we've seen y'all's work, in some of the, biggest, most flashy spaces that New York City has. We've seen their work at Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, on Broadway. What's unique about presenting a work at the Brick Theater? What opportunities does that afford you that you're excited to lean into?
I think one of the biggest assets for us, at least with Mouthful, I can't speak to You Against Nature, but has been that we have dedicated time in the space. We have much more time. I mean, it feels so luxurious to be able to rehearse in the space for a week plus, to have dedicated rehearsal space in proximity to the venue. I mean, it's one of those incredible things where you don't get that kind of time in the other big houses.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's still relatively short, right? So it's only 2 days or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So here we've had a full week to really develop the work, to shape the work, to collaborate with the technicians, to really get the production in the shape that we want it to be. And also the other thing is that we've had ongoing conversations that have been much more sustainable than a sort of show up with a production and have everything planned and have people just run the boards kind of thing, right? So here we're very much collaborating with the techs and workshopping things through in real time with folks so that we have the thing that we need and we feel is like really strong, so that when we do take it other places, right, we're well equipped to know exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. Joseph, do you have anything to add on the nature of space or this community?
Yeah, I feel like being able to work with and at the Brick creates a sense of freedom and possibility in terms of just being able to be confident that I and we could try out anything we want, and that the Brick space is really welcoming of that. They're not, they don't have a sort of house style, or to the extent that they do, it's sort of like that people should genuinely try things out and throw spaghetti at the wall sometimes, and kind of knowing that the Brick has that ethos. I wish more places did.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm home as a creator in that community, because and I've been to plenty of shows at the Brick, and I've done other things in the past. So yeah, it really at this point just feels like a very natural place to do natural studies.
Yeah. And I think there's an embrace of experimentation that happens here that's distinct from the other spaces that sort of have a different expectation of what polished means, right? Yeah. And so I think here there's an invitation to experiment more, and embrace it, and celebrate that experimentation, whereas at other spaces it might not be as as tangible.
Yeah, you can show up with a bunch of toilets.
Correct.
And put them
yes.
on stage, and the Brick is like great.
Yeah.
Like doesn't even bat an eye.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Bodegas are a motif for the gallery show.
Yeah.
Toilets have been a motif for the Exponential Festival for many years. Well, we're so excited. We welcome you. We're glad you're here. Day one of Load-In is underway. I shouldn't dust my hands, but underway. Thank you for sitting down to talk about these pieces. We're so excited to have you. Again, we're going to say this is thingNY presenting Natural Studies at the Brick, August 15th through 17th, and the gallery piece Two Tongue Tie is running just down the street at Brick Ox until the end of the month. Alejandro and Joseph, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.